Okay, what we're looking at here is a site in Quebec that the man is named LeTerrain, but he also has that in his word or his name, and so it makes me think that maybe he's naming it that or something. Or if you live in Quebec, I should have probably looked into this and tried to figure out if there's a place called LeTerrain that's outside of Quebec. But what you're looking at here is him standing on top of an escarpment or a mound that he says is somewhat a pyramid mound, and then there's this clock calendar around it, which is literally huge, encompassing all around this in a radius that's some 500 yards across and almost built like a clockwork. And looking down on it here, what you're seeing is the pinpoint to it, and he, luckily for us, filmed this in late fall, almost November of last year, and in doing so he captured the fall colors that you see in there, and he's telling you that that's really a center hub that he's in right here, but he checked out around it and in different directions, and out in different directions he's finding little mounds. This one was perfectly circular. You go to a different direction and this one is actually serpentine where it zigzags. If you take up more of a direction here, there's a cutting here at 135 degrees, a wall and a wall, and you can see that it's built in pieces and sections. And so he started thinking that these things are pinpointed around it. So after he got home, through with that walk of that day, he said, I wonder if I'll find more around it. Seeing the original three clockworked around this, three being a direct north, he started finding more and more. 4, 5, 6, and then there's a gap, and 7, and 8, and then 9, and 2 other small buildings are areas of rocks that become 10 and 11, right? So it's all from around the central hub. Using basic directions and distancing, it looks like it's on a perfect circle somewhat, but some of these are on the line, some of those are outside the line, and some of them are inside the line, and he's showing 12 of them. Now let's see if I can go back to this picture here before. Here's a look at one of the walls. But you can tell they're human construction and that they've fallen down, and you see rocks all down cascaded from this, but also trees that have grown up in between. And so it looks like the trees growing up in between them have pushed out and knocked them out and about. But I'd like to mention real quick that this area that we're talking about is in Quebec and was under glaciers at the last ice age. So this looks like it's something that's built after the last ice age. You almost couldn't fathom the idea with a glacier going along that it would have even left something like this built up. I mean, it just crunches and pummels things down, so all of this is left. And I don't know how long it took, archaeology would have to say, but he's standing on a mound that's just really cleared. And so in finding this, apparently with his drone, he decided this is a great place to, go up and hike, look, check things out. Ran into a mound on the way there, and then from the drone here, you can kind of see that you see it and how it's still bedrock, basically, and there's not enough soil to substantiate built up yet of trees to do this, but it's slowly going away in the process. And each one of these sites is a little bit different, which is kind of out of nature for what we normally see. And it's really uncommon to see any Amerindians doing much stonework at all. It's in the high percentage of not in their vocabulary or in their building sites. You, of course, find them in South America quite a bit, but the North America is very much more of a nomadic type people and stuff. But when we look at Göbekli Tepe, we're looking at places of worship that are hubs somewhat, and people are going around and around. Now, this is his fourth one that he's found, and someone else said that they are lining up, but I don't know what they're lining up to, and all I can think of is because of archoeastronomy that maybe, here's just a thought, because I've seen this in a lot of other places, but not necessarily in Quebec Indians or whoever created this site, but if they were going from one site to another, they knew where that was in a direction, or the people there would, and so they also knew that where certain stars or things would come up at night would line up with that, and they would tell you that this is the direction of it. And so you could take and just literally take two rocks and line it up and say, well, you're here camped right now, and it's that way. And so they go that way till they find the next one and the next one, and this is able to go between settlements and things and situations. Here's that zigzag snake one, where it comes in behind you from jag to jig to come across this way to come back, and it's not square in any way. It looks more serpentine, where it's open angles, but it runs back and forth. There's this other one that whenever he finds it here, this is a footage of whenever he found it, is built up in, and there's a big slab stone that's built in this one, and you know, something tells me that a couple of these look like they could be as something as small or whatever as a burial, and other ones it would make no sense for it to be that large of a mound and that long of a thing. If it was one burial, you could say, well, there's people buried here, 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 here. What you might find that this actually is a wall that's built up, and with wood they built lean-tos off to them and made a whole house set up off of them, but they're all crumbled down and destroyed now. There's a lot of scenarios of what this could be, but this one here was grown up in, and a tree has grown up inside of it, some big basswood or an oak or something, and in the process it's just pushed it all out. But over here in this corner you can definitely see they overlapped rocks and did everything in that, but that tree that's grown up in there has pushed out into it and basically, you know, kind of ruined the area. Here's another one of the little plots that are there, and he says, you know, whenever you get up here on the back of it, you can tell that that's all built in a string, and it's all built up, and then here it's beveled. Now the odd things is that these are all beveled to pretty much the inside, and built and beveled to the inside, and built and beveled to the inside, but there are two of them that are built and beveled the other way, and it kind of didn't make sense to him necessarily. But I bet you it has something to do with archaeoastronomy and lining up with certain things, times of the year, and so on. Gorgeous to overlook this spot here and everything. You see all the different colors that are around, and again, this is Quebec, and so he's gone all around here, and he says he's got another video coming up, and so I'll touch upon that. Now, somewhat of a worry, there are people that have seen his videos now, and they're trying to get archaeologists to take a good look at it, and that's somewhat of a worry for some of the people, so because they go, well, we'll never know anything now, you know, and making jokes out of it. But hopefully, people, we have people that are really trying to find truths and not turning around and trying to everything they find to fit a narrative, because every site can change a narrative, just as simple as one little flattish looking stone sticking up from a little bump hill in Turkey shows up to be Göbekli Tepe and pushes life civilization concept back double fold to what current academia was going on, which was actually expounded on from what I learned whenever I was a kid. So things keep changing, And so I'll keep up with this guy here and see what he's got. And God, that's just gorgeous there. But here's another site that he's apparently found, and it's much bigger than what he's got going on. And I think he just found it with his drone. But there looks to have been either tire tracks that run through this one part, and so there may even be a trail, may have been something happening. People could have come and chopped some trees down this area for firewood, for who knows what it is. But right now, with the way that he found that little place and it turned into what it is, this little place that looks somewhat round and is nowhere little at all, you can see that somewhat roundness of what's going on even in the picture. And I'm telling you, LiDAR would sure help a whole lot in this endeavor to get something that a little bit better scope. And man, this whole area is like a tundra terrain area that's out away, and I don't know how far away from civilization in Quebec that it is. It's not like right outside of Montreal, but it's out there a bit apparently, and people drive out or do something, so it can't be more than a couple of hours out from the situation. But I think it's quite interesting. Just thought I'd share that with you. See if what we can't get to come from it in the next couple of years, with perhaps some archaeology getting there and starting to date this place, because the erosion that it looks like is there perhaps could go a very long time, and it looks like repeated trees have pushed this things apart, and that tree ain't there no more, and other trees grew up and it pushed them apart, and that tree ain't no anymore, and here's the tree here and it's pushing it apart now. And so how many generations of trees have grown up through this stuff, which used to be cleaned at one time? And one could believe that after the last ice age, there weren't trees in this area for a long period of time, hundreds of years. And when was this built? During a time of reforestation, and who built it? And I wonder if we can find any artifacts, any stuff that's Clovis, or what we would consider Solutrean, or anything associated with this site also. Anyhow, I'll keep up with it. Peace.